Hello everyone, GM. Welcome back to another episode of Overpriced JPEGs. It is time for our Wednesday interview. Today, I am interviewing Leonidas, and we are talking all about Bitcoin ordinals. I know many of you, like me, have been watching the ordinal conversation sort of from the side and feeling like we were definitely missing something. And it turns out we definitely were missing something. So there's so much that's happening in the Bitcoin ordinal ecosystem. Honestly, this conversation is the first interview I've done in a while where it really felt like almost 2021 NFT days. And I think that'll come through. I was just getting very excited as Leonidas was walking me through this space. So we get technical here. We hopefully answer your questions that are maybe of a more technical nature about Bitcoin ordinals. And then, of course, we just get into everything fun that's happening in the ecosystem and how you can get involved. I will say I felt like I missed a little bit during the interview with Leonidas to really drill down with him on which artists and what he's most excited about. So I did ask him for that after over Twitter DM. So I want to share with you some of the artists, and we'll put these in the show notes, but some of the things that he is excited about so that you can go check those out. Usually I would have saved this for like the end of the episode as like a little teaser to get you to listen to the whole episode. But of course I didn't. So here we are. You're getting them right up front. So Leonidas is a bit of a tech nerd. He's an engineer. He's a software developer, whatever, a coder. So that's not too surprising. My sense is that the art market has the chance to really pick up over the next few months, honestly, because of some of the changes that have happened. We've got this thing called Recursion now, which we talk about in this episode. So I think this is actually a very good time to start tuning into ordinals. If you haven't been, you're definitely not too late. But some of the things that Leonidas shared with me is he said null-ish, that's null_ish, again, these are all in the show notes, is an artist who has sifted through 100 million plus Bitcoin hunting rare sats to inscribe his art on, and he is the top artist in the space. So that's null_ish. On-Chain Monkey has stuff that we talk about in this episode coming out. They've been doing some really interesting things. They're one of the co-founders of On-Chain Monkey has been involved in Bitcoin and in crypto for many, many years. So they've got their Dimensions collection coming out, which we actually talked about on last week's recap episode. There's Bitcoin Frogs is the highest market cap PFP collection on Bitcoin ordinals. This is not necessarily a recommendation, but just to say if you're getting started in this space, Bitcoin Frogs is one to look at. Taproot Wizards we talk about a lot in this episode. I think there are plenty of people in the Ethereum ecosystem who probably know about this one as well. I didn't know a ton about it, so he helped give me a full lesson on Taproot Wizards. I am now like fairly bought in and like ready to try and Allowlist, like hustle for an Allowlist spot. I haven't done anything yet, but I'm interested in it. And then OXFAR has been creating some cool 3D files that are inscribed fully on chain, as well as really good generative art. So that one strikes me as interesting. So there you have it. Again, we'll put these in the show notes. You can go check it out. Sorry to read these to you up top instead of having properly had this conversation at the end of the interview. I mean, we do get into what he's tracking and what he's interested in, but I just wanted to get some specific names to give y'all because I figured you, like me, probably want something like that. Okay, last couple of things here. Last thing I'll say on the Bitcoin ordinals front, I think it's very interesting for a variety of reasons that we get into, but one thing we didn't talk about is like, think about the Bitcoin money that's there, where if this really became something that more Bitcoiners got behind, and we talk about who's behind it and who's into ordinals, and is it Bitcoiners, is it ETH people, and we get into some of that. But like if the Bitcoin, like there's a lot of money in Bitcoin to be unlocked here, which I think is a really exciting potential with the whole ordinal ecosystem. Okay, last thing though I will say is just an administrative update. Some folks have been pinging me about the OPJ, the overpriced gin. Thank you all so much for your patience. I'm so sorry that this gin has been delayed. We have been hit with like every little thing. Apparently this is actually quite typical for like a first pass at a, I don't know, whatever it is, like a spirit brand, but it's just been one thing after another. Again, our label had been rejected a couple of times for reasons that were kind of weird and unclear. And we finally got the label approved. And then of course the cappers that go on top of the bottles, like the lids essentially that we initially got weren't the right size. So we had to send them back. And then there have been supply chain delays, and it's just been one thing after another. But I have great news, which is that the gin is officially being bottled today. This is on Wednesday, the 21st. The gin is getting bottled. It will be shipped to its next location this week, kind of end of this week, early next week. And once it is at its next location, then it'll be in the hands of where it needs to be to get shipped out to all of you. So we should start claiming your bottles of gin should start the first week of July. That's where it's looking like it's going to be. Again, there's always the chance that little things come up, but I will keep you guys posted. We are getting very, very close. We will hopefully first week of July have something up so y'all can go in, fill in your information, and we can start shipping the bottles out. So thank you again for all of your patience. Last thing, we have our next and final for the foreseeable future OPJ live event happening July 7th in Los Angeles. And our special guest is going to be the one and only Betty from Deadfellas. So tickets for that are going to be open to OPJ NFT holders this Friday. That is the 23rd, I believe. Open at 12 p.m. Eastern time. You'll be able to start reserving your seats for the event in Los Angeles with Betty. And then Deadfellas holders, anybody who has any sort of Deadfellas asset, will be able to start claiming their tickets 48 hours later, as usual, or 72 hours later, whatever it is, on Monday, the 26th at 12 p.m. Eastern time. So that event is going to be on July 7th in Los Angeles. And then we will have a little bit of a break for the rest of the summer because your girl's getting married. So there's going to have a little bit of a break before we do another event. So there won't be another one for a number of months. This will be the last event. This Los Angeles event is the last one for the kind of immediate future, the last OPJ live event. So get your tickets if you're in LA, July 7th. All right, folks. And with that, we're going to hear a word from our amazing sponsors and then on to my conversation with Leonidas. Y'all know I think one of the most powerful use cases for NFTs are loyalty programs, which is why I'm so excited about our latest partner, GALXE. That's GALXE. GALXE is a leading platform for building a Web3 community. It is a no-code, plug-and-play solution to create task-based campaigns and loyalty programs. With over 67 million users, GALXE has worked with folks like Optimism, Polygon, Arbitrum, and more than 2,100 other partners with reward-based loyalty programs of their own. And I'm especially excited to announce their latest product offering, GALXE Mintlist. Mintlist enables NFT projects to issue Allowlists based on different user profiles. It's free to use, and projects can then take advantage of GALXE's other offerings, like Task and Quest, which incentivize audience growth and user retention in the long term. Go beyond the mint and keep using GALXE's infrastructure to reward users through on and off-chain actions. GALXE's goal is to help projects grow in an authentic way and help them retain their users and communities over the long haul. And as a user, you can start contributing to your favorite Web3 communities today, joining Allowlists through Mintlist and earning rewards, NFTs, oats, tokens, and points. Go to galaxy.com right now, that's GALXE.com right now, or click the link in the show notes to get started. Your Web3 community is waiting. I am so excited to announce that this year, Overpriced JPEGs has partnered with OPENSEA, the world's leading NFT marketplace built for everyone, creators, collectors, noobs, and experts alike. I'm an OPENSEA user because they have the best selection of NFTs and a truly inclusive view of the ecosystem, supporting 8 chains and 8 global languages. I trust the systems they've put in place to keep the space safe, like copy mint protection, malicious URL detection and removal, robust verification, and more. It's why they are the place to buy, sell, and create NFTs. That's right. You know OPENSEA, you use OPENSEA, but did you know that OPENSEA now has drops? New exclusive projects launch every week from top projects and creators, and you can check them out now using the link in the show notes. They also recently introduced self-serve drops, which is in beta, and allows creators to launch their projects right on OPENSEA. This drops product gives creators access to tools like rich storytelling drop pages, multi-chain support, and drop mechanic customization. The full launch for self-serve drops is coming this spring. So check out the upcoming drops on OPENSEA right now using the link in the show notes and own what moves you. You'll also be supporting the show in the process. Leonidas, welcome to Overpriced JPEGs.
Hi, Carly. It's great to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. I was saying this to you before we started, but I was tracking the Ordinal thing when it first hit the scene, I feel like February of this year. And then I kind of checked out. Sorry, I'm silencing my phone. And not checked out as overstating it, but with everything in this space, if you're not in it, you feel out of it.
Totally.
So I'm excited to have this conversation with you and do a combination of shooting the shit on what's the latest, what are you buying, what's fun, what's interesting, how to get people started, and then also just level setting us. So maybe if we start there, I have to, I don't know what the phrase is, right? Eat crow? I don't know. I definitely was kind of skeptical when Ordinals first came out. And I was skeptical because I was like, well, to my credit, I said, if there's a real community that forms around this, like I think it'll succeed, but like I just don't know that the Bitcoin community, when I think of Bitcoin maxis, I think of them as not wanting something like this. So maybe we can start there.
You would be
How
correct.
do Bitcoin maxis feel about ordinals at this point?
Yeah, so basically the really high level of what's going on here is Bitcoin was thought of as a fungible currency for a very long time. Last summer, this guy named Casey Rodermore came into the historical NFT Discord. He told us that he had found potentially the oldest NFTs ever. And he had done that by basically creating this method of numbering every Satoshi. So for people who don't know, there's 21 million Bitcoin. Each Bitcoin can be split into 100 million Satoshis. And that results in 2.1 quadrillion sats, we call them. And I
can't imagine why we haven't gone mainstream yet,
Yeah. I don't like everybody's a sat whale in the Bitcoin space, which is fun. So yeah, basically he numbered these and allowed all 2.1 quadrillion sats to be individually tracked, effectively turning them into non-fungible tokens. So this threw a wrench in the Bitcoin maxis future plans for Bitcoin, because this unlocked a bunch of cool stuff that the kind of, I'll call it like Web3 degens are now coming to Bitcoin and doing. So there is very much a cultural divide on Bitcoin. You could probably even call it a culture war, where it's been very clear for a while that like there's this kind of laser-eyed Bitcoin maxi crowd that doesn't like change. They kind of stay with the Bitcoin currency use case and kind of will make arguments that everything else is like some degree of unethical, essentially. And over here in Web3, like we're just trying all kinds of crazy stuff. Like this is where I, as a developer, was excited to spend my time, right? Like you, obviously, it's much more exciting and fun.
Way more fun.
Yeah. So we, are now coming over to Bitcoin, and we just have two very different sets of values. I would say the values of developers in Web3 is largely, hey, let's just try thousands of crazy experiments. We know most of them will fail, and hopefully one or two are very successful. And, we know from Silicon Valley, that's the pattern of how you get innovation, right? The Bitcoin maxi model is we're going to endow like 2 or 3 projects and really not allow or basically gatekeep from a cultural standpoint any developers doing anything other than these very specific use cases. And what you eventually end up with is this period of stagnation on Bitcoin where Web3 just moved way beyond like just superior, and many different use cases are very superior on Ethereum. And Bitcoin, in my opinion, was kind of falling behind from a use case perspective, right? And this has totally flipped the script on that. So Bitcoin can now do many of these use cases in Web3, and the maxis are not super thrilled.
Are shaking in their boots.
Correct.
So let's ask this then. Who is primarily trading ordinals? I think just the other day, it was the second most popular chain for trading NFTs, which is not something I ever thought would happen when I first joined this NFT world in 2021. So who is trading right now? Is it Bitcoin people who just aren't the traditionalists? Or is it ETH NFT traders? Who do you think is making up the bulk of that?
Yeah, so I'd say it's a majority Ethereum, Solana, NFT people, probably like 70 or 80%. And then it is this cool melting pot where we do have these more like reasonable, rational kind of Bitcoiners who are having fun, collecting their JPEGs for the first time. And we've created this kind of like middle ground culture between Web3 and Bitcoin. And we've got all sorts of characters. So like Michael Saylor, the billionaire, came out saying, hey, I think ordinals are really cool. This very much surprised the maxis, who assumed he would be in their camp of anti-ordinals. So we've got an interesting crew of people in this group.
Let me tell you my all-time stunner of who is in the Bitcoin ordinal group. Peter Schiff.
Yeah.
I literally just have a whole category in my prep doc here of just like somebody explain to me what's happening with Peter Schiff. For folks who don't know, Peter Schiff is an economist who has been, like, if you know anything about him, you know that he hates Bitcoin. Has been basically saying Bitcoin is going to go to zero for years, truly. And it's all a scam, and it's, and he partnered with an artist and did a Bitcoin ordinal project. Do you have any idea what the hell is going on there? Is he being paid? Is he having a stroke? Like, what's happening?
So yes, you are correct that Peter is one of the most outspoken critics of Bitcoin. Lots of incredible content has been created over the years that I'm sure your viewers will be happy to go back and watch. But essentially argues that Bitcoin can store zero value. It is literally worth $0. And with Ordinals, people thought his account was hacked when he first tweeted about this, to be honest.
I totally would. If this wasn't 2-week-old news, I would have seen that and been like, oh, poor Peter, he got hacked.
Yeah. So it basically turns out that he views Bitcoin as a currency, like the currency use case is not being valuable. He actually thinks the art side of things, the ability to use Bitcoin as a database to store art, he thinks is pretty neat. So that was a very, for people who've been following this for a while, it was a very interesting
You know what? That actually makes me respect him more because I understand that logic, to be honest. And I had honestly viewed him a little bit as a provocateur, which he is, I think.
Right.
But like the anti-Bitcoin thing as less a serious ideological thing and more a provocateur thing, if I'm being honest, which shows probably that I didn't read enough of his other work. But like, okay, I buy that. I understand that argument.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. How is his project doing? How did it do?
So I believe so it's on auction right now. So it's going to end on Friday. Like, I think he's doing an event in New York City. So yeah, I don't know if you want to go hang out with Peter.
On Friday?
This Friday, I think 7 to 9.
So that'll be, by the way, this episode will air after that. So if you're listening to this, too late for you to come, but maybe I'll go. I kind of would like to meet Peter. I think that'd be interesting. Okay, I have maybe a technical question, which we're going to get some of these during this process. You said that the start of this really was actually last year when somebody numbered all of the sats, the Satoshis.
Correct.
Which rendered them non-fungible suddenly because one isn't equal to, one that has number 1 is not equal to number 7. I know some of this gets into the ordinal piece because you've got like the sats that were used in the exchange on Bitcoins that were used to exchange for like the pizza, right? Or like rare sats. Do I have that roughly right?
Yeah, that's basically how we think about it. So essentially the primitive that Casey created, I explained that, these sats can be individually numbered. You can trade them specifically. So people are interested in owning sats that might have been part of some cool historical moment, right? So there's all kinds of fun moments from Bitcoin's history involving drugs and Lamborghinis and pizzas.
Famously Papa John's pizza.
And Papa John's pizzas. And, to me, it's like, I think it's cool to be able to hold, to know that the sat that you hold is a sat from that transaction. It's just kind of neat. Whether these things will be like super valuable or not, like time will tell. But I personally find it kind of cool to own, like literally you can own a sat that Satoshi mined, right? That Satoshi held, a sat that Hal Finney mined. There's a lot of like cool
That's
sats
sat number
there.
78 or something, right? It was the first.
So yeah, block 78 is the second oldest block that we can get. And block 9 is the oldest block. Block 78 was mined by Hal, and block 9 was mined by Satoshi. The reason we have access to block 9 is because in the first Bitcoin transaction ever, Satoshi sent 10 Bitcoin to Hal Finney. So those 10 Bitcoin got transferred to Hal. Hal then sent them on, and they've kind of gone throughout the network over the many years. People didn't know what they were holding. And then now, of course, this like group of, we call them like sat hunters, is going and hunting these down.
I have to say, in doing research for this, like I'm having so much fun with this. It does feel a little bit like the early days of discovering NFTs. Like there's new stuff I'm learning, and it just feels fresh, even though it's also not at all fresh. And this is the bullshit that we've been doing for the last 3 years.
It's just on Bitcoin. But
yeah, exactly. But there's something that feels just fun and ridiculous about it. There is something, this is way overstating it, but mind altering of like Bitcoin turning into these collectibles like this. I don't know. That feels like a pretty big paradigm shift if it really turns out that that's where this all goes, which it could. So here's what I want to ask, because I know there's like BRC 20 or whatever, which is like an attempt to bring fungibility to these on. I'm trying to like reconcile here, you being like, hey, we're numbering the sats so they're all inherently non-fungible. And then what I've been reading about BRC 20s, which is building fungibility into inscriptions. Is that the way I would phrase it?
Yeah. So the way to think about this is we have the sat that's now individually numbered. It's essentially an NFT. And we have an inscription, which is the second part of the innovation that Casey did, where the bottom line is you can now go to a bunch of websites, take a file on your desktop, drag and drop that image, any file, most people are doing images, into this website, click a button, it gets inscribed into Bitcoin. The larger the file, the more expensive that is. Okay, so all the full nodes all around the world will store that file. And the idea is this is the most immutable, resilient database, right? Like that is the entire thing that Bitcoin is good at, is being resistant to nation state attacks and sophisticated actors trying to manipulate the data on the chain. So
decentralization.
Decentralization. Unless, in case you haven't heard of it on the show, decentralization. And Bitcoin does it extremely well, right? So people value the provenance of their art being inscribed there. And to me, it's like, it's not even just art. Like, I think it's cool. I'm seeing people are inscribing like pictures, like family photos from when they were a child onto Bitcoin, knowing that they'll be there in 100 years. Like, that's sort of a neat thing,
cool.
Right? Yeah.
It's cool. So, sorry, I was just cursing under my breath, being like, God damn it, this is cool.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm upset about it, but I'm just like, it's another thing I have to go spend money on now, I guess. Sorry, continue. Okay, that's inscriptions.
So that's inscriptions. And when you combine the two with a SAT that's going to track ownership of the inscription, you end up with like a full NFT primitive. So the inscription...
Hold on, pause. Say that again, when you combine that with a SAT that's going to track the inscription?
Yes. So the inscription is just a file uploaded to, we'll call it the Bitcoin database.
Okay.
The SAT is something that can be transferred from one wallet to another. Mm-hmm. When you use the Ordinals protocol, okay, you're going to take that image, that inscription, and you're going to assign it to a specific SAT. Now, of course, that file is not actually moving in between different computers, right? You're moving the SAT, which we all have this.
The SAT is like a pointer.
The SAT is it's a pointer.
It's like the way, and I know like this, a smart contract is a pointer.
Right.
You know, it's that concept. Okay, great.
Yeah. So the SAT will track ownership, and you end up with this fully on-chain NFT primitive, and that's what people are like super excited about. Like the NFT collectors are super excited about right now.
Okay, but what's the BRC20 piece, the fungibility piece?
So we have to get to the crazy degen experiments. So that was what Casey created, okay? Then all of these other developers came in and have tried, I would say like hundreds of these different protocols using this kind of innovation that Casey unlocked. One of those that's been pretty successful is BRC20. We're going down a little bit of a rabbit hole here, but essentially you can inscribe JSON. So you're inscribing data, text onto Bitcoin, and you are performing an action saying, for example, I want to mint this ticker. So let's say ticker ABCD or ticker Carly or something. And there's going to be, you specify in the JSON, there will be a supply of 1 million. And then people can go mint that for free by inscribing a different type of JSON saying, I'm going to mint that. When it mints out, right, all of these indexers are tracking when the million have been minted out. And then it's now minted out. And then now it's just going to be secondary markets where you can transfer between different wallets by also performing, you essentially inscribe more data. So you're talking, it's basically a protocol where you're talking to these indexers that are built on top of the Ordinals indexer, and you're communicating by writing JSON.
So what I find funny about this is like when I've read about this, they're like, we've brought fungibility. I think it's like fungibility to inscriptions or whatever, but it's like with the Bitcoin blockchain. And I'm like, that's Bitcoin. You know what I mean? Like we already had a fungible token on the Bitcoin blockchain. It's called Bitcoin, but here we are just fucking around. I also read something that 45%, and this was maybe an old stat, but like of activity in Ordinals was BRC20 tokens. Does that read as right to you at all? Like what percent of the community? Yeah.
Yeah. So when BRC20 initially came out, people got excited about it for a few days, then it died off. And then about a month and a half later, this company Unisat came out and just created an amazing marketplace for this. This caused not only a lot of excitement in the Bitcoin community, but like I think all of crypto in general. Like this definitely made a little bit of noise. And I think at one point, like for a few days, it was like 75% of the transactions on Bitcoin were BRC20, and then like 90 something percent of Ordinals transactions were BRC20. So this caused the fees on Bitcoin to go up from like less than $1 per transaction to like $70. And this again, another one of those lovely moments where the Bitcoin Maxis weren't super thrilled with us.
Let's talk about fees for a minute, and then I want to get into marketplaces and trading, because I said this again to you before we hopped on, but like back when I was really paying attention, we were still in like the spreadsheet trading days of Ordinals.
Fun days,
and I know things have evolved from there, but the fee thing, my understanding, and this might be very naive, but or outdated, is there's this double-edged sword with fees. One, fees are much higher, though I think I was hearing maybe you even say that they're kind of a little bit low right now relative to where you guys imagine they will be in some future date. Totally. Or somebody was saying that. But obviously higher than before all of this was going on. And that's unfortunate, right? Anybody who's traded NFTs on Ethereum, which is everybody who listens to this podcast, probably remembers the days of super high ETH fees, and that sucks. On the other hand, I remember reading something about people feeling like, well, this solves the problem, quote unquote, of once all the Bitcoin in the world are mined, what incentivizes folks to continue to maintain the network? And if there's activity happening in the form of ordinals and whatever else, like there are fees then that can go to folks, and that incentivizes maintaining the network. Is that double-edged sword? React to that, I guess, is the question.
Yeah, so I definitely like that take. I think, Bitcoin did have this existential crisis of how are you going to fund miners once the reward runs out? And it was one of the more serious like critiques you could make of Bitcoin, because this wasn't a solved problem. And Ordinals introduced for the first time a potentially interesting, way to solve that problem, which is, the miners have this reward that they get for every block, but they also get fees. And the Bitcoin Maxis very much want the fees to be very, very low. And what we're doing is coming and using the chain a lot more. And that demand for block space is driving up the fees. So we saw for the first time in several years, the fees actually surpassed the reward in a block. I think it was a month ago. So miners are extremely happy about this, because it means they're making quite an extra boost in revenue. And when you have a halving coming up in, I think 11 months from now,
next year, yeah,
that reward's just going to keep going down, right? This is potentially going to be a very important alternative source of revenue for them. And additionally, this whole rare sat thing that we were kind of touching on, because miners are producers of sats, they can potentially extract those sats and sell them. So we're seeing, I believe, 10 Bitcoin plus for several very, very rare sats have traded hands over the counter. So if you're a miner who extracts one of these rare sats, you could potentially supplement your block, right? So there's potentially interesting revenue sources for miners, and there are miner companies, like mining pools, mining software companies, taking this really seriously and building tooling for this.
This is a field of the main purpose of this conversation, but do you know what Bitcoin maxis who don't like all of this that's happening, what their answer to that problem that I laid out is? What do you do once all the Bitcoin have been mined?
They would tell you that the demand for Bitcoin will be so high in the future that it would eventually
from a money standpoint. Yeah,
just the Bitcoin currency use case alone will end up solving that problem. Maybe they're right.
Buying and trading it, they would say that it'll be solved not necessarily by Bitcoin being used, but simply by also being traded back and forth like gold. Is that
sort of? I think most Bitcoiners see a future for Bitcoin where you use networks like the Lightning Network to allow peer-to-peer trading as a currency. So very similar to how we use the US dollar digitally, right? That's the kind of vision. And in that future, everybody's using these L2s like Lightning. Nobody really cares that much about the transaction fees on L1. So in that way, we can drive the fees up on L1, and that's okay. I just think the reality is it's a great dream to have, right? But if we can 100x, or even right now we're 10x from where Ordinals, from before Ordinals to now, that 10x in fees is very valuable to those miners. And to me, it's the higher demand for block space. I think this is a good thing to have, problem to have.
So let's go to the other side of this double-edged sword. So we described that's maybe a benefit of it. On the other hand, high fees suck for the consumer. Do you worry about high fees around the long-term sustainability of an ordinal culture?
Yeah, so I look at Bitcoin as kind of being the premier premium block space personally. So I also hold a lot of Ethereum NFTs. I love them. And to me, Ethereum and a lot of the L2s on Ethereum, and like Solana and some of these other chains, they're going to be really good for like creating mass like scaled products, gaming, all of these other things. But Bitcoin's going to be really good at just like taking a very simple JPEG, storing that in the most decentralized, secure way, and storing that value very, very well. And for that reason, for the reason that people value Bitcoin, the currency, they'll also value high-end assets living here.
Yeah.
So
that's what makes sense to me is if you're already bullish about art on chain, art stored on Bitcoin, I very much get the premium feel of that. And so it's not necessarily like you're trading in and out the way you maybe do on ETH. It's much more of like a high-end art market place where you're willing to pay $100, $200, $300, whatever, right, in fees because you're doing like high value asset work. Is that what you're thinking?
Totally. Yeah. So I would say like 2/3 of the value of all NFTs across all chains are created by the top 100 artists and brands. So Bitcoin is going after those high value assets. And I think the market for those, kind of mass scale products, the Reddit NFTs, these sort of things, I think this is going to become a much larger, much more important over time. We're just not there yet. So for the current use case of NFTs, like people really do just want to store an image on chain, and all the fancy stuff that you could do with smart contracts. While it's neat, it's more of just like kind of a novelty right now. And we haven't seen projects really take advantage of that yet. So Bitcoin is able to basically achieve what that 2/3 of the market is right now. And it does a very good job at it.
Let me introduce you to a brand new company that I could not be more excited about, Web3 Sense. A Web3 analytics platform that combines on-chain data with social media insights to give you the deepest, most meaningful intelligence into any NFT community. I have tested other analytics platforms out there, but Web3 Sense has the most comprehensive capabilities I've seen in the NFT ecosystem. They apply sophisticated data science to wallet histories to determine behavioral patterns and help shape predictive analytics. In other words, they can tell you which Twitter accounts are actually the influencers in your space. And they can tell you what resonates most within a community by looking at what other communities token holders are involved in. The number of use cases here is virtually unlimited. So whether you're a trader, creator, institution, brand, agency, I promise Web3 Sense has data that you want to see with the deep and actionable insights that you need to build, analyze, grow, start, whatever you want to do within the NFT space and in terms of building a business and a community. Now, they are still in very early days, so they're eager to connect with the community. So if you're interested in learning more about what Web3 Sense can do for you and your business, and you should be, go and fill out the very short form linked to in the show notes, and someone from their team will reach out with more information and an opportunity for a product demo. Trust me, you won't regret it. Y'all know I love Ledger, the world leader in critical digital asset security. When you own crypto, what you actually own is a private key that gives you access to your coins. It is imperative that you keep this key safe, and Ledger wallets are the best way to do that. The Nano S Plus and Nano X Ledger wallets, paired with the Ledger Live app, give you the best way to start your crypto journey while maintaining full control over your digital assets. Send and sign your NFT transactions with full transparency in the Ledger Live app. What you see is what you sign. And y'all have heard me talk about Ledger Stacks before. Well, due to unprecedented demand, Ledger has received all the Ledger Stacks pre-orders that it can fulfill through summer 2023. And so they have decided to pause the pre-orders. Ledger is incredibly grateful for the community's support and is working hard to get current pre-orders out and ready to ship so that they can make even more Ledger Stacks to keep your digital assets secure. Sign up for the Ledger Stacks waitlist and be the first to know when Ledger Stacks are available again for pre-orders. But don't leave your digital assets susceptible to breach or hack in the meantime. Order your Nano S Plus or Nano X today by visiting shop.ledger.com or clicking the link in the show notes. So let's talk about the art, and we are going to have the marketplace conversation as for folks who want to understand how to like really start in all of this. But what's interesting to me is right now the art on Bitcoin is pretty limited in terms of what it can be. Like the ordinal look is all very pixel and simple. My understanding is that that could be shifting because of this recursions thing that's happened. Again, clearly non-technical me. Talk us through that and like what is this recursions update that's available now and what does it mean?
Yeah, so recursion is basically saying, hey, we've uploaded all these files to Bitcoin, right? But those files are just, sitting there. They don't know about the other files. We've introduced a standard that allows one file to call another file and pull it into itself. And in that way, you could potentially, have have a very large file, because all these other people have done the heavy lifting and paid millions of dollars to inscribe these other files for you. And you can leverage that, right? And you can leverage the code that they're already inscribing for you to create interesting generative art, very similar to Artblocks, for example. So Artblocks uses these JavaScript packages that are on chain on Ethereum. And then all of these awesome artists get to come along and just write a little bit of code and make amazing art. So what you're seeing now is all of these artists on Bitcoin, On-Chain Monkey's like a great example. They've been kind of pioneering some of this stuff for a few months now, and it's finally coming out, where any artist can come. The files that are expensive to inscribe, all those JavaScript packages, are already on the Bitcoin blockchain. So they just, pull that in, and then they can write, 200 lines of code, make some really cool art. And then for like 30 cents, they were able to make a pretty amazing piece of art. So that's super exciting, because this is one of the biggest complaints that I get, is like, this is just way too expensive to do my art. Most people don't have $100,000 to release like 1,000 pieces of their art, right?
Which is what it is costing, because it's so costly to try and do this process. So as On-Chain Monkeys, who we're going to talk to, and I've been back on and off talking to them for a while to get them on the show, and we're finally going to make it happen now. But did they paid those $1 million in startup costs to get these big packages of libraries?
So I don't know about millions of dollars. We have had a project spend $1 million, but I would imagine they probably spent a few $1,000s. But even a few $1,000s to store some of these packages, that's a lot of money for most artists, right? So to be able to come in and leverage that, I think that's like a very beneficial thing to be able to do.
So we're right on this precipice, or I guess this is a question. Are we right on a precipice, in your opinion, of this generative art movement starting to happen on Bitcoin?
I would say yes. Yeah, Recursion unlocked. I personally, from talking to generative artists, like they weren't taking it super seriously on Bitcoin. It just wasn't a great fit. Recursion is, like, in my opinion, totally changed that, because not only can they now do their art block style art, but they can also, essentially, Recursion is going to allow us to pull in data from the blockchain as well. So for example, I could take, I'm going to say in my art that when this block in, 1 week happens, I want to take the hash from that and feed that provably random number, which we don't know what it is yet, into the art. And then only when that block is mined will it reveal the art. This is a key piece of how art blocks and generative art works, right? So we've now brought both these pieces of art blocks into the fold. And I think you're going to see artists do some pretty neat stuff.
That genuinely excites me. How do I make sure I can participate in this when it happens? What do I do?
Yeah, so look, if you know how to code a little bit, there are like tons of people right now just getting super excited about this, and you can just jump in. Most of the conversation's on Twitter, but I can put you in touch with people. If anybody's an artist out there getting excited, like, just kind of go to the Twitter search bar and search for people talking about this stuff. And there's no like platform right now, which is what's slightly annoying.
So crazy.
Yeah.
It's so early.
Yeah. You're going to have to figure it out a little bit yourself. But if you know how to write a little bit of code, you can start making like pretty basic experiments pretty quickly.
So let's talk about the UX side of this, which it is so funny. I think when Ordinals was first popping off in like February, there was a John Carlo tweet that I loved that was like, us in 2022, how can we get more mainstream adoption? Us in 2023, or like, non-fungible tokens is like too complicated for the mainstream, like 2023, like inscribed ordinals, right. Best we can do. And you're like, good. And the other thing was just the UX, which was even clunkier. I referenced earlier, like, I remember the spreadsheet days, but it's past that now. And you run ordinals.io. Did you start ordinals.io? Tell me your connection there.
Yeah. So it's ord.io, ordinals.com.
Ord.io, sorry.
Ordinals.com is the explorer that Casey created, and it's really awesome explorer. And yeah, Zach, my friend, and myself, we created an explorer, started it about 2 months ago now. And yeah, it's a really, like, we're just trying to have fun, like, creating cool ways for people to discover cool inscriptions. So there's just this constant feed every time a block's mined, all of this cool art gets put onto Bitcoin, and we want to be able to cut through all the noise and surface all the coolest stuff that's being inscribed on our homepage. So we have an upvoting system where users can connect their wallet. If you hold an inscription in your wallet, you're able to vote on different inscriptions, and then the most trending ones show up on the homepage. So that's like the core of what we do right now.
Okay, so how do I buy an inscription?
Yeah, so there's several marketplaces. I think the most popular right now is Magic Eden. So they came out with their, Bitcoin product about 2 months ago. You'll basically have to set up a wallet. So Xverse and Hero are the two main wallets that people are using. So this is essentially, think of like MetaMask. You go to
Xverse. I've been looking into a little bit and it seems very easy.
It's very easy. If you know how to use MetaMask, like this will all make sense. And it's just a browser extension or an app that you download. And then you'll connect to one of these marketplace websites, like Magic Eden is the most popular. And yeah, it's like you can now click a few buttons and buy your first inscription, Carly. So no more spreadsheets and Discord degeneracy.
Tell me the name of the marketplaces. Did you just say them?
Yeah. So the main
marketplace. Of course, Magic Eden.
Magic Eden is the main
and I know OKX.
marketplace.
I think is adding them, and there's other. I don't know.
So yeah, OKX. I don't think it was a marketplace yet. Binance NFT just supported like I think 2 or 3 collections for the first time, but that's a centralized marketplace. So I'm personally a fan of the DEXs.
Magic Eden.
Yeah.
How would you describe the Ordinal community, and do you feel like it's different than the ETH NFT community?
I've been like very intentionally from kind of the start of this been trying to, and it's not just myself, like several of us have been trying to create a culture that's like welcoming. So Bitcoin, Maxi
You're saying
culture.
ETH NFT culture is not welcoming?
No, ETH NFT culture, there's very friendly, awesome people in ETH NFT culture. This was more kind of like, now that we're on Bitcoin, I think it would be pretty easy to let kind of sort of maximalism slip in just because there's that culture on Bitcoin, right? And we've been pretty intentional. We love it when people from Solana and Ethereum come and like download Xverse or Hero and start collecting, right? And the reality is like most Web3 people, we collect from many different chains. Like, I personally really like Ordinals and I'm very excited to collect there, but I also have Ethereum NFTs that, I'm going to hold for like many, many decades, right? So it's a little bit weird just because it's like Bitcoin has its own flavor of everything. But it feels like it's definitely similar to like Web3 culture and Ethereum NFT culture for sure.
Does it feel like the bear isn't happening there? Like, I'm assuming this stuff is happening in Discords and on Twitter the same way anything else. Do most of these projects have designated Discords?
Yeah, so there's lots of Discords. I think basically when you start 5 months ago with like $0 of market value, you only can go up. So yes, like when the pie is growing, everybody's a little bit more happy. It's definitely something you will probably notice, right?
So that's what I was thinking, is it feels almost, even just me talking about it, because there's, I don't know, and not that I'm even benefiting from this from a monetary standpoint. Like, I haven't traded any of these things, but like there's something that just feels fun and a little bit like early 2021 to me.
Totally. Yeah, we're figuring it out. So it's like nobody really knows what's going to come next month. So it's fun being part of something where literally every day on Twitter, somebody created something like really innovative and cool. Again, yeah, very, very similar to how people were pushing boundaries back in 2021 before we kind of realized, okay, here's the main like 10K PFP product market fit. And we're going to like really double click on that. We're not at that point yet. It's not totally obvious what the future here is. So it's fun to kind of get to discover that. On the point of just Ethereum culture, I would say like there's maybe 2 or 3 main differences. Because we've mixed in this Bitcoin core developer's ethos, Casey, his ethos of Bitcoin into this NFT protocol that he created. He is not a very big fan of like anything. Like, he wants everything to be very immutable and does not want anybody being able to mess with your JPEGs, right? So on Ethereum, I would say probably a few of the things that a lot of Ordinals people maybe would critique or that I'm not a super big fan of. Ethereum has a bunch of amazing things going. I just think in a few different ways, it's maybe lost its way slightly. Specifically, I would say this whole thing with royalties, where in order to ensure we have royalties, we're doing permission smart contracts. This to me is kind of a line you just don't cross. Like, I personally want, self-sovereign ownership of the assets that I hold. I don't want any multi-sigs or, OpenSea employees or anybody in the way of that. I want to be able to hold these for a very long time. And also just the metadata, there's not a culture that's like strong enough yet of collectors demanding that metadata is frozen on Ethereum. So you end up with these situations where, large collections are literally saying like, go check OpenSea. We turned all of your art into middle fingers. Like, this is to me, like, this is why I don't want people being able to do anything, right? Like, I want my JPEG to just be my JPEG, and I don't want to complicate it too much. And for that reason, the simplicity of, the way the Bitcoin protocol works and Casey's primitive of ordinal inscriptions, I think like people really like that. It's like we can't do the fancy stuff. And unfortunately, that means, hey, like there's cool stuff that we can't do, but also this kind of stuff that I would say is not the right direction. We also can't do that stuff. And that's a pretty big pro in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm definitely in the camp of different strokes for different folks. Like I think that being able to update metadata introduces interesting things like a dialogue with a piece of art that actually brings the art market to life in a way where I think most people in a younger generation like don't spend that much time thinking about art on a wall because it just feels very antiquated unless you're doing it because you're rich and you need to store value, relative to television. But there's fun things where you can almost dialogue with the art if the metadata changes according to actions you take and things you do. And so I think there's ways that can be a part of the experience of it. That's interesting.
Agreed.
But I also totally see the value. And I have had Jimmy on the podcast before to talk about this specifically, like what he did with Avastars, which I've talked about. There's a running joke I feel like on this podcast awesome. That I'm like an Avastars maxi, you know, and this is my like influencer moment to try and like pump and dump my Avastars because I have two and I've been holding them for forever. No, I'm kidding. I'm not dumping them. But and cyber brokers like really have a lot of respect for folks who have taken the time and the money to go fully on chain. And so, and again, it fits in the schema I have for where ordinals would fit in my own mind. Okay. Also, can you help me clarify, like, when would I use the term ordinal and when would I use the term inscriptions, or are they fungible?
Oh, I'll complicate this for you even more.
Oh, good.
So this is how Casey laid this out. Okay, so you've got ordinal theory. This is how we number sats. If it's a Satoshi and a sat where there's ordinal theory has not been applied to it, or it's still fungible in our minds, that's just a Satoshi or a sat. When you apply ordinal theory to it, that sat becomes an ordinal. Okay. Now there's inscriptions. The inscription is the file that's stored fully on chain. When you combine the sat, or now the ordinal, with an inscription, you get a digital artifact.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? I actually understand that. That was less confusing than some of the descriptions, and you've done a great job, but like some of this deep tech shit, you're like, it's a JSON file.
Trust me, Carly, I'm answering these questions all day, and I totally get like, it's a little bit confusing.
That I understood though. That distinction is clear to me. You've got a sat, once it's been, ordinal theory has been applied, it's an ordinal. The inscription is the thing stored on chain, and once those things are put together, it's a digital artifact.
Yes, you got it.
Okay. All right, interesting. So going back to these comparisons of like 2021 ETH NFTs, do you think most of the projects that are coming out right now, like with NFTs, are 99% junk and never going to go anywhere?
So on ordinals, I would say, it was really interesting. The way Casey created the protocol, every single inscription is numbered based on the order it's created. So there was a lot of junk early on because people were literally just copy pasting other people's stuff on chain. Interestingly, because these things were numbered, because they're like the first 10,000 or the first 100,000 inscriptions, they've actually held their value really, really well, even though the art is like not at all interesting. People just want to collect one of the first 10,000 out of now 11 million inscriptions. More recently, we have seen, I definitely would say like the quality of projects, the quality of art we've stepped up our game. Like don't judge us by February, judge us by like June. Okay. So yeah, like I'll give an example. Yesterday, I was like on the Or.io, like our Explorer, right? And I saw this individual created a piece of art on a palindrome sat. So this is a sat number where if spelled backwards, it's the exact same thing. Okay. And then the actual art that was inscribed was a butterfly, which is the symbol that we use to identify a palindrome sat. And then they took the number from the sat and incorporated that. And that's what makes the butterfly. To me, that's somebody taking the primitive, understanding how this actually works, and using Bitcoin sort of like as a medium to create the art and tell this really cool story. So I'm excited for the artists doing neat stuff like that.
Nerds meet art. So like nerds get into art. Here we are.
Yes.
Is there an Allowlist culture? Like how do you get into good projects at this point?
Yeah, so we're a little bit different here. So yes, there is like this whitelist concept where there's people quote unquote grinding for whitelists, but this guy Udi has this project Taproot Wizards that people are like super excited about. And he did something a little interesting where he was like, if you want to get on our allow list, you need to buy a wizard costume from Amazon, go into your shower while wearing this, videotape yourself taking a shower in this outfit. And we have since seen people like, I don't know, doing crazy stuff like, you know, these two kids, they got in like I think like a Corvette with the top off, got in wizard outfits and like went into a car wash. We saw somebody like rent a helicopter. Like, so people are making these like absurd stunt videos and posting them to Twitter. And the funny part is like, you know, when this project releases, like it very well may be worth like $50,000 each, like 2 BTC each. As a floor would not be that crazy. So when you are essentially like giving people like millions of dollars, it turns out that they will do pretty crazy stuff to get on whitelists.
I'll go through a car wash in a Corvette, not gonna lie.
And it's very entertaining for the rest of us. So I'm a fan of the video shower whitelist culture.
That's the title of this episode. How did Taproot Wizards take hold as like a project to own?
Yeah, so Taproot Wizards are created by a group of like Bitcoiners. So different than a lot of the projects that you see, they're created by this like very Bitcoin native group of people. And at inscription number 652, they decided they were going to do a pretty crazy stunt. So they teamed up with this mining pool called Luxor, and they gave them a 4 megabyte file, which is the largest file you could possibly inscribe to Bitcoin. And inscribed the largest, like this was the largest block ever mined on Bitcoin. Okay. And this, I would say probably was like one of those inflection points where it's like, if you hadn't heard about, you know, Ordinals, which very, very few people had at the time, you probably might have seen, oh, we just mined like the biggest block because these like crazy people paid a ton of money to inscribe a huge image onto Bitcoin. And that is the first Taproot Wizard. And since then they've released like 2,000, they've inscribed 2,000 more. But the project has not been released yet. I sadly do not have Taproot Wizards whitelist. Udi, if you're listening, I would love to get a Taproot Wizards whitelist.
Well, how many are they going to release?
Yeah, so 2,121. So for Bitcoin's 21 million supply, so 2121.
Oh, and but they've already released 2,000.
So they've inscribed them. So the files are now created, and because you know basically they wanted to lock in having low inscription numbers and being early, but they're still holding the entire supply, right?
Got it. Okay. And so then they'll release it. And are all the whitelists gone? There's no hope for you?
No. So they created, we're getting into the details here, but they created this website called like Wizard University or Wizard Academy, I think.
Okay.
And you basically go and complete a bunch of tasks. So like a skeptic a critic would say you are really making people grind for these whitelists. But on the other hand, the tasks that they're having people do are actually like, I would say mostly like cool, helpful tasks. So they're teaching people how to set up a Lightning wallet, like teaching people how to learn Bitcoin, right? So they're onboarding people, which is, I think, pretty fun. But yeah, you can go to, I think it's like, I don't want to say the wrong URL, but go to the Taproot Wizards Twitter and go check out their wizard school. It's pretty fun.
I want to do this. How much longer do I have to get a
Marley,
whitelist?
you're going to, yeah, you can.
I'm not a non. I can shower in a wizard costume, you know?
Do it. Yeah.
Do you know how much longer there is on it? We don't know. They haven't said.
That's something that's slightly controversial. They haven't really announced any sort of like early deadline. So I'm gonna be honest, I would not be shocked. They've held on to these for 5 months now. They might hold on to them for a year. I have no idea. People ask Udi 100 times a day when they can get these, but I think they're like more passionate about the onboarding people to Bitcoin part than the actual like collection maybe. So I think they're really kind of milking the whitelist stuff.
It's working. I'm interested. I'm intrigued. Are you like guaranteed a spot if you go through these steps?
So they closed the shower one, unfortunately, for you. So I think they got less than 2,000 people did a shower. So if you did a shower, I'm pretty sure you got a wizard.
You got in.
They still have probably a few hundred more, I would guess, that are up for grabs. But it's really like they have this team that's reviewing all these. They're essentially like an application, right? Did you do all of these things? Yeah.
I never got into whitelist grinding in ETH NFTs. Not that I anticipate starting now with Bitcoin NFTs, but I was just like, I can't. There were so many. You know, that was sort of the thing was I was just so overwhelmed by like the amount. And also I was like, I'm not playing this game. But I'm like, maybe this is my time. You know, it's a bear market. Maybe it's the time for me to just start getting into ridiculous allow list grinding in Bitcoin. Maybe that's my
why
Bitcoin
not?
future.
Why not, Carly? You can be a wizard.
Last question. I want to talk through. I guess we've already kind of explained this, but I just want to make sure see if there's anything else I'm missing around like rare sats, because it seems like there's like a whole tiered structure of like uncommon, epic. Is this like a real thing, or is this unreal thing? I know there's like the pizza one that we talked about earlier. I need like the sats that were a part of like the pizza trade.
Yeah. So the creator Casey calls Ordinals and rare sats this like collective delusion that we're doing. So
well, that's crypto.
That's crypto though. So you can choose to like believe in these things or not, right?
Correct.
If you want to hold a sat that he has called rare or uncommon or epic based on a rarity tier and a rarity index that he created and baked into the protocol, then you can collect an uncommon or rare sat. And that market is now like hundreds of millions of dollars. So there's obviously a lot of people buying into this collective delusion that he created, but it's totally up to you. Like if a Bitcoin maxi just wants to ignore this, I have no problem. Like, just do your own thing. Like don't worry about us like trading one sat for one Bitcoin. It might seem weird to you, but that's what we're doing. So
the whole world is a collective delusion. Right? I mean, this is the thing that's so funny to me. That is us as crypto people's argument to money, to fiat people, right? Is fiat at this point is also a collective delusion. Outside of, I bought this t-shirt because it's super comfortable, designer shoes that are super horrible for your feet are a collective delusion. Like the entire world is just made up of collective delusions. It makes us human.
I agree.
Why is any one of them stupider than another?
Yeah, I mean, we're programmed like biologically to have this kind of basically we like collecting things. We like valuing scarcity. Probably from like millions of years ago, we spent a lot of time focusing on collecting nuts and resources like that. So for our survival, we had to focus on this. And now we don't need to focus on collecting nuts. We get to focus on more exciting things like collecting monkey pictures. And that stuff is still latent in our brain.
Progress, baby.
Yeah.
We've evolved.
Yes, we
evolved from monkeys to collect monkey pictures.
Correct.
Oh, how the wheel of time turns on. Leonidas, thank you so much for joining me. I would love to do this again, and I really do want to get into this because it's just bringing me with the kind of joy that I used to get from NFTs, and now NFTs kind of make me sad sometimes. So I'm excited this is happening.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, Carly.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of Overpriced JPEGs. If you liked this conversation, if you liked this episode, please go ahead and hit subscribe. It helps me out, it helps the show out, and it means you will get alerts and updates when we post new content. Thanks again.